Trying to, okay. Yeah, maybe a couple of seconds here to get that rolling.
We're good.
Good, all right. Thank you all for being here. I am Mike Ramsey, Butte County District Attorney. We will be going over the investigation of the Bidwell Mansion fire and subsequent investigation that showed it to be an arson. But first, I need to introduce our local public safety chief from State Parks. This is one of the lead agencies in this investigation. This is Aaron Wright. 2 A's on Aaron.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I think as everybody knows, December 11th, California State Parks and allied agencies responded to a devastating fire at Bidwell Mansion, finding our historic building engulfed in flames. Bidwell Mansion is a symbol of the city of Chico and a point of pride for our community and for all of us. And we grieve with community, and we had unwavering drive to catch this person responsible. We all took this very personal. Ever since that morning, State Parks, with all of our allied agencies, worked tirelessly to figure out what caused the fire and to bring anybody that was guilty to justice. This was not just a State Park case, but a team effort by a lot of agencies. The team was extremely dedicated, working long days and nights. We worked through the weekends. We worked during the holidays, giving up time to their families. Everybody was dedicated to see this investigation through, do a thorough job, and build a case to catch our suspect. While this started out as a State Parks case, it truly was a partnership and a collaborative effort. I do want to recognize all the staff from the different agencies. Within State Parks, we had people from our special enforcement team and all the way down to San Diego helping with this case. Locally, the Chico Police Department had a ton of resources with the investigation looking for the suspect. The Chico Fire Department had fire officers helping with this. Cal Fire had some of the best staff from the State Fire Marshal's office and our local Butte unit helping figure out who did this. The University Police Department at Chico State spent hours going through almost 2 terabytes of data just trying to help us, along with anything else that was asked or needed. The FBI assisted us, and I'm not going to forget the Butte County District Attorney's Office. Mike called me the day of the incident and said, whatever you need, we're here, and they've been a part of this incident from the beginning. We also brought in the Sierra Regional Arson Task Force to assist us. With all the incredible efforts, we have not determined what caused this fire or who the suspect was. So today represents a turning point in the case as the criminal prosecutions begin with the DA's office. I will ask everybody though, please be patient while we see this conviction through. All of our agencies are still working on this. This is not done yet. We still have more to do and more to investigate. As we continue to do more follow-up in this case, State Parks will continue to work with our community partners, including the City of Chico, California State University, Chico, the Machuca Indian Tribe, the Bidwell Mansion Association, and the community to plan for the future of Bidwell Mansion State Historic Park. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to District Attorney Mike Ramsey, or Chief.
Good afternoon. I'm Cal Fire Assistant Deputy Director Andrew Henning, and on behalf of State Fire Marshal Daniel Berlant, I'm proud to be here in Chico today to recognize this important arrest. I know I don't need to remind the North State residents about the critical threat that arson poses to California. In addition to the arrest of a suspect arsonist of the destructive park fire, our fire investigators arrested over 150 suspects across the state in 2024. We have an absolute zero tolerance to the act of starting a fire with the intent of causing damage and injuring Californians. At Cal Fire Office of the State Fire Marshal, we are proud of our specialized arson and bomb unit, which among many tasks is responsible to investigate fires on state property. This includes the historic Bidwell Mansion, which has been one of the jewels of our sister department, California State Parks. On December 11th, our arson and bomb investigators joined the many of the allied agencies here today to determine exactly where and how the Bidwell Mansion fire started. Not only did we commit several of our arson and bomb investigators, but also were able to successfully use 2 of our new detection canines during the search and arrest of our suspect. While our suspect has been charged, we will remain committed to assisting the Butte County District Attorney throughout the judicial process. Lastly, I'd like to take a moment to remind Californians, when they see something suspicious when a fire starts, Report it to authorities, any details you have that you can remember, including information about the suspect, description, and any vehicle information. Thank you very much.
This was the jewel of Chico, built and finished in 1869, the Bidwell Mansion. We're here today because of what it became on the early morning hours of December 11th. It is almost wholly destroyed. It is still early to make a determination of what will be done with the mansion. But I am here to talk most specifically about the incredible investigation involving hundreds of hours of investigator time. Also involving the best of the Butte County law enforcement culture and tradition. That is the coming together of our community's law enforcement agencies, both local, state, and federal, with a common goal to investigate the facts and the evidence to see that justice is done. And also involving a number of community citizens and businesses who, during this investigation, gave their time and resources and kept their contributions confidential so that the investigators could keep on the trail of the suspect without causing him to know he was being tracked and to cause him to possibly flee or destroy evidence. This investigation involved, as already indicated, terabytes of surveillance videos and digital evidence that was gathered by well over a dozen search warrants that were reviewed by my office and submitted to local judges to get those warrants and get that information. And that information, that evidence is still coming in and is being reviewed, as was the evidence in this case, frame by frame and byte by byte. And that's BYTE in our new electronic age. The initial response, this case started at about 3:16, 3:17, when the Chico Dispatch, and that's a dispatch center that is shared by the Chico Police and the Chico Fire Department, received reports of a fire in the area of Little Chico Creek near the children's playground and possibly the Bidwell Mansion. That call was called in by a dispatcher from the Chico State Police. She, being approximately 1/3 of a mile due south of the Bidwell Mansion, smelled smoke. She called the dispatch center to determine was there a fire in the area. They had no report at that time. She then began looking on the some 500 cameras that Chico State has on its campus and discovered the flame, and all too unfortunate flame, coming from the area of Bidwell Mansion. And Chico Fire was then dispatched out to take care of what was now a fully involved and fully engulfed Bidwell Mansion. The Chico Fire Department, when they arrived, as indicated, saw that it was fully involved. They fought valiantly for several hours to try and save what they could of this very old mansion. A mansion that, interestingly enough, was in the back part where the fire started. Technically more of a problem for the firefighters than normal, because when the Bidwells built this particular mansion in the heat of the Chico area, they made a natural cooling system. That natural cooling system fed this particular fire. When I say natural cooling system, I'm talking about how the air flowed within the Bidwell mansion. Now, the investigation began shortly after, well, actually before the flames were out at the time. The first was to try and determine the fire origin and cause. And that's where the CAL FIRE Office of the State Fire Marshal was called in and was tasked with digging through that still hot area to try and make a determination as to what had caused this particular fire. And then the investigation to try and determine who was the suspect. It is believed, and we have video, and I will show you that video in a moment, that more than an hour earlier, at around 2:05 to 2:07, on a rather grainy video, a shadowy figure is seen that is on the north porch of the Bidwell mansion, and we see a fire start suddenly. The fire for the next hour or so in that surveillance kind of waxes and wanes until finally it goes up in the porch and the inside to fully involve that structure. There's also indication that the basement suffered a catastrophic explosion around 3:05. That even as the fire smoldered, as the fire burnt, it appears at this point, working supposition is that very well may have been natural gas from a severed mine that had gathered in a small basement right under the start of the fire. The fire marshals and their expertise looked at those tapes. They confirmed with the actual technical forensic information that it appears that a window was broken, that either a Molotov cocktail or gasoline was poured inside of that window and outside on the porch. The fire then began to burn, and around 3:15 is indicated, finally traveled up that porch pillar and spread. It has yet to be determined why the fire alarm system did not work in the Bidwell mansion. That is something that will be a side investigation to this investigation, but it's become increasingly clear that it did not work. It had not the fire alarm, but the system that includes both a burglar and a fire alarm system had been tested. At least the burglar alarm system was working shortly before this fire around 4:30 that previous afternoon. As investigators, with the help of the Chico State Police, started to gather the surveillance tapes, they made the determination that the figure that they saw that had started that particular fire had come in to the Bidwell, what we'll call kind of the Bidwell campus, as it were, from the north. Had come in down West Francis Willard Boulevard down to Arcadian in a 2000 2007 Toyota Highlander that will be important in the discussion as we go on. The,
Bottom left.
okay. So we see from a surveillance, the car, the Toyota Highlander, had come in, made a turn, and then parked. That car was in other views of that car was a matter of intense investigation, largely led by the Chico Police Department and the Butte County unit of CAL FIRE, and looking at possibly tens of thousands of videos to try and figure out who belongs to that particular car. As we connect the dots, as it were, and
The middle left,
thank you.
or left. in the middle.
Back. I'm looking.
Okay.
Another view has the suspect that is walking by and walks by, and as we see when he walks by, it appears that he has a rather large object with inside what looks like a black plastic trash bag, which becomes important later, and another bag, a smaller bag, over his right shoulder, on his way to the Bidwell mansion.
Middle.
And this shows what had occurred. Now, this particular tape has been gone over and over and over by the investigators. We'll give a particular short view of watching. This is Bidwell Mansion, right here. You see the fire begin to start. And it's an immediate flash, another immediate flash, and then you see the flame start. And that burns largely in that way for almost an hour. It is difficult to see until you do this frame by frame, but we see the subject in this area right near that fire. And what you see in terms of this linear fire has been looked at by the experts who believe that that was a second window over. That fire, that linear, is the fire frame itself on fire, as well as fire from the inside and a bit on the outside. At the time that that fire was going on, across the street, Northern Mills, their camera was operating, and watching this area for a flash. I have to turn it on, of course. And what appears to be a rather loud explosion. A number of people in the area had said that they heard that explosion. That led investigators to believe that perhaps not only was it a gasoline poured in, but perhaps a device such as a Molotov cocktail was used in the starting of this fire. That is still being ferreted out at this point. After the fire, another, comes the suspect running across the area where the blue light is in the surveillance at Chico State. And also the, that is at approximately 2:08 that occurs. Then it's headed in the direction of a place there on West Francis Willard Avenue. You'd see him going one to the right, now going to the left.
Number 8, bottom left.
As the person said, as that person was going back towards where he had parked the car, we see him coming back to where the car is parked behind that bush. And then we see the car that he'd come in, now leave back out, headlights out. Okay, now it became a matter that we know we have a suspect. But how do we identify that particular suspect? That's where a lot of good old-fashioned police work started. And part of that good old-fashioned police work was to do neighborhood canvassing, to get the video in the area. One video would lead to another video. They would spread out the officers from the agencies to spread out and check with all of the various neighbors in a 360, eventually following that car and identifying the car by its make and model. Then getting that make and model into the computer system, particularly with the license plate readers that are all over the community, particularly in Chico, as a public safety matter, to try and see who that car belonged to. One of the videos, because a silver, 2001, 2007 car may be somewhat generic, but there was something specific about this car as the officers were following the breadcrumbs of surveillance. And that was this car's upper brake light, the third brake light that's above or just below the roof, was non-operative. Additionally, the running light that was above the brake light on the driver's rear side of the car was non-operative. That caused officers now to look for that specific car with that specific lighting pattern to try and narrow who owned that particular car. In their looking for the car and kind of following the breadcrumbs, as it were, they did come across a car, and this is in April of 2024. That is what appeared to be Mr. Carlson in the car that was registered to him with now a license plate. Of note, in this surveillance that was at the Bidwell Mansion and surveillance around coming to Bidwell Mansion and leaving Bidwell Mansion, it appeared that that vehicle had its license plates removed to avoid detection from the license plate readers. This is April of 2024. This is a license plate reader that was on the parking attendant's vehicle. And this took a huge amount of work to find this, but it was a valuable clue to try and find out who owned this particular vehicle. Found out that the vehicle was registered to Kevin Carlson, and he lived in the 1500 block of Springfield Drive in Chico. So, at this point, the officers were figuring where this car was tracking to and tracking from the Bidwell Mansion. It was a matter of literally connecting the dots and making sure that this particular car was found and try to find where this car called its home, as it were, along to determine that Mr. Carlson was not just the registered owner, but the owner of this particular car.
Right middle.
We will go,
Or right middle.
okay, that's 5.
Yeah, right above 5, I believe.
Yep. Mr. Carlson's apartment complex is right here. This is on the evening of the fire. This is at 1:38. Remember, the fire was about 2:06, 2:07. And you will see the Toyota Highlander come through on its mission to Bidwell Mansion. Officers were able to generally look at various places that were that citizens had or businesses had surveillance, governmental agencies had surveillance, license plate readers in the various areas, to track from there down to close to the Bidwell Mansion, basically the roundabout at Flume Street, on its way at basically 144 towards the Bidwell Mansion. And this is the roundabout at about 2:15. This is coming after the fire. Notice right there, that is not working, that back light. And other views of this car show that the driver's side upper running light was non-operative also. So officers were fairly confident that they had the right vehicle at this point. And, okay,
Right top.
here.
Yep.
And just not showing every one of these, But, at, 2:28 that evening, Mr. Carlson stopped by the 7-Eleven store. And that is him picking up a gallon of water, that night. And his car is out in the parking lot. And it does appear that there's a point in time that he placed the license plates back on his car when he went into what the officers referred to as a dark area where there was few of any surveillance. And also by the time that they were able to get to the point of some of the surveillance in that area, those surveillance had been written over after 7 days.
Right middle, under one,
Where are we at the,
right middle, under number one.
yeah.
There you go. Under, yeah, there you go.
And this is his vehicle coming back at 2:31 into his apartment to his apartment complex. It should be noted that his during his going to Bidwell Mansion and coming back from Bidwell Mansion, when the search warrants that we saw were authorized for what appeared to be his cell phone vendor, showed he had turned off his cell phone for about an hour as he had left his place, and then shortly after he came back, turned his cell phone back on. It was determined that that was unusual behavior for him to turn off his cell phone. It's either turned off or went to airplane mode. That his service was fairly consistent, except for that particular time, that particular night. As officers were now looking and trying to get back to, and this, again, this is a very clear view of him at the 7-Eleven, that some more surveillance came through, and it was determined that he visited the Bidwell Mansion that around 2:35 that day before. This occurred on Wednesday, early morning, so Tuesday afternoon, he had visited the Bidwell Mansion and had parked in the normal parking lot and walked around the Bidwell Mansion, what we believe a scouting trip. Okay, really heads up police work. This was done by the Cal Fire folks and the Cal Fire local folks, the Butte unit. Started taking a look around the Orville area, just to see if perhaps in the Orville area that he had come into that area. A check of the license plate readers indicated that 90 days before December 10th, he had never visited Orville. But on December 10th, Mr. Carlson in his car came to Orville, and interestingly enough, his cell phone was off during that visit to Orville. And it was there that he was captured on surveillance, coming to Home Depot in Orville at around 3:03 and buying this red plastic 5-gallon gas can for $27.03. He was out of the parking lot at 3:10. At 3:29, he is then seen at the Walmart in Orville, where he bought a roll of white duct tape. He exited the Walmart parking lot around 3:38. Then was next seen on the video surveillance at the AM/PM store on Oredan Boulevard, where he bought $20 worth of gasoline. And all of his purchases were cash purchases. We do not see, because of the way the angle of the surveillance was, whether he put the $20 worth of gas in his car or in that red gas can. Working supposition is it went into the gas can. At 4:18, he is back in Chico. And remember, this is the day before, or the afternoon before the early morning hours. His phone is back on at 4:35. He is then seen at Ace Hardware at about around 7:53. That's the Ace Hardware on the 200 block West East Avenue. He was in the car, or pardon me, in the store for approximately 5 minutes, bought work gloves and a 16-ounce claw hammer. He left around 8 o'clock. He was next seen being followed, as it were, by the surveillance and the license plate readers to Food Max on Dr. Martin Luther King Parkway at 8:13, where he bought a box of 30-gallon black trash bags. He was next seen on surveillance at Walmart in Chico, where at 8:33, he bought a long-handled lighter. Basically the barbecue lighter that most of us have, on sale for $2.72. As indicated, that's when he then obviously went home and then made his fateful trip in the early morning hours. And this is again, his phone was off 1:36 to 2:35 in the morning. Not routine for him to turn off his cell phone other than that day before and the night that he was on his way. Okay, always motive is not required, and jurors are always instructed. The prosecution people do not need to show motive, but certainly everyone wants to know why. Why would someone do this? Why would someone attack the Bidwell mansion? Investigators again located a TikTok channel. It's a channel focusing on expressing communist, Marxist, very left-wing, not that communists and Marxists are left-wing in themselves, but even further. Channels that would indicate a anti-colonialism bent. That's why you heard me say in court today that there was an indication of some political ideology. No indication of a contact or a specific connection with Bidwell Mansion, Bidwells, but his family indicated that he has for a number of years had that ideology. It has caused a rift in his family. He is basically estranged from his family. Some of the challenges with that motive: he has almost no online presence, doesn't appear to currently have a job, and seems to have very few relations in his apartment complex. Virtually no one knew him. And that's Kevin Alexander Carlson. So at this point, invite questions on the investigation. I can't really answer any questions. talk about what's the future. Bidwell Mansion, I can tell you that's up in the air, so. Question?
Was Carlson, is it known if he's acted alone or if there are other suspects?
No other suspects. Appears completely alone. The indication from his family and a couple of people that didn't know him, he was largely alone. Yes.
Going for the fire alarm, what date was the last time the fire alarm was tested?
Was tested, I believe, in June, specifically, but 4:30 on December 10th. Not the alarm, but just the fact that they set it, and everything appeared to be set correctly when the people left at 4:30 on the 10th. So it is unknown at this point what has happened.
You talked about more than 12 search warrants. Is that for surveillance video as well as the cell phone stuff, or?
Most of the surveillance videos were voluntarily given by the very citizens that were asked by the officers that were going basically block to block to block to block.
So what were you searching for?
Well, the search was for his online presence, his cell phone information, that would give us some idea. For example, the search warrant that was there for that showed us his cell phone was off. Also, cell phone information as to the location. You have to get permission of a judge to get into the cell phone, or the cell phone vendor, I should say, to check and see where in the world was that particular cell phone. And thank you for asking, because I kind of left out a bit of an important thing is when he was arrested last week, what was found and what wasn't found was instructed in the back of his vehicle, and a bag that is consistent with the bag that we saw over his right shoulder as he was in the Bidwell Mansion campus, were the hammer, duct tape, gloves, and what else? Lighter. And the lighter were in that bag. Not found at all was the red 5-gallon can that was obviously purchased there the day before. And, okay, other questions?
Would you be able to clarify just one more time how you were able to identify that license plate after he took it off? I know you use license plate readers, but how were you able to make that clear determination?
Well, the clear determination that it was off, that the license plates were off, or
What his license plate was?
Oh, that was as the officers determined what this vehicle was and how many of those vehicles, silver Toyota Highlanders, were in the North Valley from Shasta to Yuba City, and started shrinking that down to an idea of saying, this is a unique car by what lights are out. They start looking at for a unique car with that lighting out. And then when they found, like the one example that I showed you from April that has that license plate on, then they had a good idea to start looking for Mr. Carlson. And Mr. Carlson also, after they developed him as a very good suspect, they also were surveilling him. And the group, the very excellent investigators that were assigned to this were surveilling him 24/7 and seeing where he was going, comparing that back to those surveillance tapes of the unknown suspect and the unknown car.
When
exactly was he identified as the suspect, and how long did that surveillance go on for?
Guys, date that he was,
The Sunday after the fire.
pardon?
The Sunday after the fire?
Okay. So that's how they were working, Sundays, Saturdays, and is it twins?
No.
Oh.
Thankfully.
All right. Just as an example of the dedication of all of these folks, one of the lead investigators, Officer Detective Kurtz back there, has just found out that he's not gonna have twins, but just one child. One was a year old. I mean, so that was going on during this period of time. So, and he was then surveilled from that point on, as the case was being developed. Same.
Does Mr. Carlson have any prior criminal history?
He does not.
So there's a lot of evidence, as you can see, that you guys did a tremendous job with that.
Thank you.
Has he confessed? Because I know at the court he asked for an attorney.
Mr. Carlson, we can't say that he confessed, but it would be inappropriate at this point to say what Mr. Carlson said, or quite frankly, didn't say, other than to say he has denied for his own sake.
Another question. So
Sure.
in June, going back to the fire alarm, in June, was there any indication that the fire alarm was not working? in June?
The vendor, the contractor indicated it was.
Can you elaborate more on the actual arrest, as in, per se, who, was it CAL FIRE, Butte County, which was the actual agency that made the arrest, and was he cooperative, or did he try to resist in any way?
He was arrested, and after the surveillance showed that he left his residence and went to a restaurant in Chico, and in the parking lot of the restaurant in Chico, detectives from the Chico Police Department came out and got him, and small resistance, but not much.
Thank you.
What was his demeanor like when he was arrested?
That would be inappropriate for me to kind of get into that level of detail at this point.
Okay, and then I had another question too. So just to confirm that there's been no plea since
Right.
he's asking for his attorney.
Yeah, if you heard him, or if you didn't hear him, sometimes it's hard to hear in the back there. He was indicating that he was hoping to get his own attorney. In the meantime, the judge appointed a public defender, Mr. Larry Pilgrim, to represent him until such time as he either gets an attorney or doesn't.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything? All right. I can't believe I answered everyone's question.
No fireworks used in this, right? That we can tell?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily count that out.
Is there anything you can tell us about his just background? Was he a Chico native? Did he go to school here or anything?
He largely grew up in Paradise, graduated from Paradise High School. He graduated from Chico State with a degree in mathematics, and also then went to some graduate work to become a teacher, but did not finish that graduate work. Okay.
Can you please one more time go over how you approached the Bidwell mansion? Did you have to clear any kind of barricade as it was?
Good question. Yes. As many of you have ever gone by the Bidwell mansion, you know it was going renovations. There was a 6-foot chain link fence all around that particular mansion during its renovation. And he either squeezed through an area or went over. He is, the indication is that he's physically fit.
At any point after the fire, did he go back to see the mansion burn?
No. To our knowledge, no. But that doesn't mean that he didn't, there was some indications afterwards being in the general area, but we can't specifically say that he did. Anybody else?
Forgive me if you mentioned this, I know you mentioned what you found in his car, was there anything, in his house that was noteworthy?
Yes, there's electronics, and that's the next step. Is cell phone, plural, the laptop, and I think some other electronic media that are down in Sacramento. It was called the Sacramento High Tech Task Force. That are the people that can get into appropriately and forensically into that those electronic devices and perhaps give us more information as to what his motivation may be. That's one of the big train going right now.
You said he had a TikTok account, do you have any other accounts, YouTube even, or any other social media?
There was a TikTok, I guess, not social media at all. So, I think there's one or two others, but that not, really used, not him going out, but we will know more when we find, when we get into his electronics. What we found was who he was following on TikTok in particular.
Would it be known if he had social media but then deleted it, or was that part of the?
That's part of that ongoing investigation. And also seeing if he had pseudonyms, because the search right now is just been under his name or known pseudonyms. That,
Did I hear you say that it's a maximum of 11 years? Is that what I heard?
that is correct.
That's
That,
willfully-
the way that, that is figured is that arson itself, willful arson itself is up to 6 years. And then we have charged the use of accelerant, a device or accelerant, which adds another 5-year maximum term. So that is 11 years. I know it's, doesn't seem to be enough.
Seems
I would
willfully
probably agree with you. That is just as an interesting aside. Destroying something worth obviously millions. And that in 2018, the legislation that allowed us to charge for additional enhancements for huge amounts of loss, legislature let it lapse. It was reinstated with Proposition 36, which became effective a week after this. Oh, there's a mic drop. Right. Do it. Anything? Okay. Alrighty. And we also have Chico State. And, you know, I want to let the folks here who have Swanson in the city of Chico. Anything, sir?
No, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Reynolds, Mayor of Chico, to say anything, and just as a, and we have newly sworn in for another 4 more years, supervisor from the 4th district. And so, with
I
that,
would have a question if you don't mind.
certainly.
Is there any more to the motive? And excuse me for being naive, but, because he had these left-leaning tendencies, and he was against colonialism, is that considered, he had a beef with the Bidwells?
We don't-
Maybe you can't.
We don't know.
Okay.
That's just strictly speculation at this point. I mean, we've got a lot of theories, but quite frankly, not enough to move forward on those, other than to move forward for further investigation on that. Thank you.
Do you know how long he's been unemployed?
His family indicates that he has, he generally does line cook, and will go for some months working, getting a lot of overtime, saving his money, and then will then not be employed for a period of time.
And he lives by himself?
He lives by himself in a very frugal lifestyle. All right, thank you all for being here, and the investigation goes on, and that investigation will then be revealed in the court. Most likely not be having any further press conferences on this. We'll let the court take its process. Thank you.
There we go. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That was the press conference regarding the Bidwell mansion arson there. Just a sad tragedy, you know, that I don't know what this man thought he was going to accomplish by burning down this 100-year-old building, but I don't see a bunch of people out there rioting and burning down the town in anarchy, if that's what he thought was going to happen. So we'll see, ladies and gentlemen, how long this case plays out. The man asked for private counsel. He'll be back in court Wednesday. See the status of that. So we'll find out more as it plays out. This has been the cameraman reporting live here in Oroville at the Butte County District Attorney's Office, signing off.